So yeah, I'm a photographer and an artist, and for me to talk to you about my practice, you need to know about my life and my background before I can start. So just wait for that slide. So it all started with mum and dad. My mum was born in Woy Woy, Central Coast, and my dad was born in Khon Kaen in Thailand. I was born in Thailand, in Khon Kaen, in 1991. They met at a disco, and they gave birth to two really beautiful children, Megan and I. And I guess it was a great upbringing. We did everything that I guess a Thai person would do. We went to temple, we ate very hot food, and when my mum and dad decided to part ways, my sister and I, my mum, moved to the Central Coast in Australia. And that's when we started our cross-cultural movement, meeting Santa, starting school, eating Tim Tams. It was a great start to Australia. And I remember as a kid putting on my East Gosford Primary School uniform. I was very happy. I was very keen to start this adventure. I think it only started, high school was when issues of racism, of that push and pull between the other and Australians, I guess, that I felt that I was different. So my first series that I'd like to talk to you about is Pauline Hanson's maiden speech, a video performance critiquing the racial sentiments expressed by Pauline Hanson, her maiden speech delivered to Parliament on the 10th of September 1996. So this speech went for 12 minutes. I decided to only take the bits that I was, I guess, offended and very hurt from a cultural perspective. During her speech, obviously in Parliament, in her maiden speech, she could talk about anything, and no one was going to interject her. And in terms of what she said about culture, from Indigenous and land rights to Asians swamping the country and forming their own ghettos, taking jobs and not assimilating, those were the sentiments I wanted to use, and I wanted to flip them and show that I wasn't like that, and that her words that she didn't understand how heavy they were didn't mimic my life and my lifestyle and the reality of what I thought was Australia, multicultural Australia. So I think we've got a clip here. I'm fed up with people telling me this is our land. Where the hell do I go? I was born here, and so are my parents and children. I will work alongside anyone, and they will be my equal, but I draw the line when I'm told I must pay and continue paying for something that happened 200 years ago. Like most Australians, I worked for my land. Nobody gave it to me. I and most Australians want our immigration policy reviewed and multiculturalism abolished. So on the left is my mum, who is reciting Pauline Hanson's maiden speech in Thai, and I guess with my appearance acting as the other, have now turned into the interpreter, speaking in English, interpreting for my mum about this speech. So we have this mismatch, this visual mismatch. And in turn, I want to make you guys think of this thing that we have tied between language and physical appearance, and as well as questioning the image of what constitutes an Australian. When my mum and I did this clip, at first we actually took a few takes just because it was the words were just so harsh, and they just didn't mimic me. I didn't feel it. It was horrible. And it was very difficult having to keep a straight face and having to just say it so calmly and simply, because that's what I want you guys to get. I wanted you to really hear every single word that she's saying, because they're so bold and so wrong. So that's why when you see as well, there's nothing distracting you really. I just want you to focus on the words and focus on the fact that my mum is speaking Thai and I'm interpreting, and how those words are not correlating with the reality of me. So I started looking at people who, different ways of interacting with the other and approaches as well. I know talking about racism can get you can get really angsty and get really harsh and violent, and I'm not that kind of person, and I wanted to be as calm and simple and clear as possible. So with this artist, Arya Bracha Rimsuk, her video is that she got Western paintings and got Thai villagers to interpret them and what was happening there. And it was this simple play of East and West, and how, and having subtitles as well and what they're going to say. Just uses their conversations based on humour, curiosity, and the human need to understand. It touches on simple human interactions. They're no longer foreigners or another or some people we can't relate to. They're simply people who speak another language. Another artist I looked at was Pauline Pantsdown, aka Simon Hunt, and I'm sure you guys have seen the hit. So Simon uses music, mockery and humour to expose the ridiculousness of Hanson's sentiments, whereas I use my experiences and my reality to show how her words do not mimic who I am. So the next work, I wanted to dive deeper into Asian stereotypes and Asian labels. So notions such as yellow peril, yellow army, gook, labels that stain the perceptions of people of Asian background in Australia. The work is a symbolic self-portrait that attempts to confront the racist remarks towards my appearance and and I guess encourage myself to like self-worth and empowerment to say that I can identify my own, define my own identity. I don't need Pauline Hanson to define me. So this process is a rinse, wipe and wash. And my mum just rinses and washes me and wipes me till you can see that I'm not of yellow complexion, I'm of olive skin. And then as I move away from the camera, you see that it's my mum. And I guess that's, just, again, just to enhance that whole personal experience for me. After wash too, I started to think about stereotypes in terms of what to be, what to look like, how to achieve these stereotypes, how to stay away from them. And I realised that the more I try to push away from these Asian stereotypes that, you know, I can speak English, and I don't have squinty eyes, and I'm not yellow, I was trying to be another stereotype, and that was the Australian stereotype. And this is when the new work, Australia Day, came into play. So Australia Day was heavily obviously influenced by Australia Day, and the lead up to it, especially the large copious amount of merchandise that you can buy. And it felt like the more stuff you bought, the more Australian you were. And yeah, I just wanted to see, and I wanted to explore the imagery of an Australian and what an Australian should look like and wear. So collecting all these props and flags, glasses, hats, wigs, tattoos in particular. The series wants audiences to reflect on how society represents the idea of an Australian and how it is often over-exaggerated, saturated, and doesn't mimic reality. I also looked at artist Taryn Simons and started to question the value of objects, especially from a cultural point of view. So this work, Contraband, Taryn Simons collected objects that were banned from JFK Airport. So it ranged from, you know, your drugs, your weapons, food, but there were also items that were deemed unusual and repulsive in Western terms, but hold great significance or common use in another. Exhibit A. Exhibit A. So cow dung toothpaste. So cow dung toothpaste is very popular in Hindu religion, Indian cultures. You know, this toothpaste is believed to have cured a whole herd of diseases from headaches to cancer. And like I said, you know, these objects, we see that and we're like, ew, that's disgusting. But in another country, that's perfectly fine, that's perfectly normal. After collecting all these objects from Australia Day, I wanted to then take portraits of them. And these are the portraits. All the models are half Asian, half Australian, all that I know. And they're also my age as well, all trying to, I guess, figure out Australian identity and make sense of their belonging. Fashioning them, it was actually quite fun at the beginning. It felt like a little fashion show. But I think at the end, after having all the Australian Day stuff, it felt a bit too much. It was just a drench of Australia Day and it didn't feel right, if that makes any sense. I didn't feel like those objects defined me. The positioning of them was greatly influenced by Eric Bridgman and his series, The Sport and Fair Play of Aussie Rules. So he playfully deconstructs symbols, signs and roles, and by using well-known objects such as uniform and Australian flags, adornments, reminds us of the rules that govern our experience of culture. By fashioning, performing, it draws us to the absurdity of cultural stereotypes and personas, and that's what I wanted to achieve as well. So I guess, in conclusion, I want you guys to really think about your beliefs, about who you are, where you're from, your values, your views on politics, racism, culture in Australia as well as in the world. Really think, why do you think that way? Why do you feel that way? What's your evidence? And don't tell me it's Gary from down the road told you. You need to be more than that. Research. Back yourself up. And also remember there's no such thing as one answer. It's all about exploring and experimenting and putting yourself out there. So think first. Thank you.